for truth.
Welcome to Duality Check, the podcast where two brothers embark on a journey through the realms of scientific inquiry, the mysteries of the past, and the uncharted frontiers of spirituality. Join us as we explore the wonders of our world and beyond, all while embracing the roles of curious bystanders rather than experts. Together, we'll unravel the tapestry of existence, blend in the dichotomies of knowledge and wonder, get ready to question, ponder, and delve into the dualities that shape our understanding of reality on Duality Check. I'm Drew.
And I'm Dean. And you kept that together. Good job.
Thank you.
You just had to add like an extra breath and
a little bit of emphasis. Yeah.
You wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Got through it though. Got through that. That's why we do it live. That's why we do it live.
For sure. All right. Welcome to episode 56. And today we're going to continue on this interview with the reptile thing.
Very interesting so
see
far.
how far we can get through it.
Yeah, very interesting. We got some other videos and stuff to share.
Yeah, we got a bunch of other stuff, so we should just get to it. We got email or YouTube comments from our buddy Greg.
Yeah.
He said, episode 55, your first recording in 2025. I turned 50 yesterday. What a time to be alive.
Happy birthday. You might share a birthday with me. You might share a birthday with me.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. That's pretty close.
Happy birthday, Greg. You turned 50. I turned 34.
Yep. And I'm 40. So.
And then you.
We're catching up to you. Go. And then, we just saw this other comment that you just left another, like a day ago. So let's, this was on last episode, interview with the Reptilian part 1. He says, interesting, quote, interview of this reptilian gal, but I treat it like a sci-fi or fantasy story. It looks like an author just gave some anthropomorphic characteristics to this being, and that's that. Hair and reptiles? No, sir. It just doesn't happen. That's why reptiles have scales instead. Same with breastfeeding. This alone would make them simply mammals. Nah, don't buy it. For me, much more interesting was this piece about the hypothetical binary star system from which our sun might be a part. There's this talk in UFO circles about some alleged event which supposedly will take place in 2027. So maybe it's this. Also, Dr. Greer announced that a big disclosure will happen within 72 hours from yesterday.
Which is 2 days ago.
Right. So maybe he's talking about this whistleblower that's supposed to come out.
Yeah.
It's 16/1. Oh,
yeah.
You must.
January 25th. Oh,
no, January 16th. This is European date format.
Oh, yeah.
Or
as
everyone but America, basically. They do the day first. As I'm writing this, I'm actually partial to the year first and then the month and then the day. That way you can sort all your files that way.
Yeah.
Anyway. Shortly after, Ross Coulthart made an interview with a new whistleblower. Oh, yeah, here he goes. About UFO retrieval program, and apparently we'll show video from this on Saturday, the 18th. Might be something we just get the same bull as always. Time will tell.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for the great episode, guys.
Dude, thank you, Greg. You're awesome, man. I appreciate all the
thoughtful comments.
Yeah. And you're right. I think that was probably the more... Like, I understand, like, we're going to do some more interview with it because I love the idea of it and I love the just the content of it anyway.
Yeah.
But I do think that this hypothetical binary star system is very interesting.
Yeah, so...
Especially with the context of all these, like...
Do you recall the Anton Petrov video that I shared a while back?
Yeah.
Where he was talking about a new theory that... maybe what actually happened, why we have all these like off-axis orbits in the solar system, could be of a flyby of another star system early on in the solar system's development.
Right.
But
they don't go any further than that. Yeah.
So there's people who come down on that side of things. There's people who come down on like the Planet X side of things. Yeah. There's people who come down on like our system is actually a binary system, and I am a little bit partial to that one just because my understanding is that the more we learn about astronomy and the better tools we were getting and our better ability to look into space,
Detect certain things.
what we're finding is that the vast majority of star systems are actually binary.
Right.
So it would make ours an outlier if we weren't.
Right.
And so we could be in a binary pair. So like,
and the idea would have to be that it's some sort of dark star or something.
yeah, like
otherwise
a brown dwarf, right? Like essentially like a Jupiter that is so much more massive, but not massive enough that it started to ignite.
Right. So it's just a small point of a mass.
Large, because it would be bigger than Jupiter probably, and it would have to be relatively large to have the influence on the orbits that it's
got the
had.
mass, but hasn't ignited into a...
Right. Anyway, so yeah, but for me, I see the whole binary / Nibiru thing as like potato, like they're like different versions of the same theory. Although it could be that maybe this Nibiru isn't like some crazy off-angle orbit of the sun, and maybe what it's actually doing is orbiting the binary partner. So maybe there's a brown dwarf and a planet around it. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some
all I know is
for you right there.
The evidence points to we don't have a full understanding of our solar system's formation.
And potentially what's actively within the solar system that we don't know about.
Right.
Or within the star system that we don't know about, right?
And it's a little unintuitive because you think, oh, well, we've got like James Webb looking back like 13 billion years, 14 billion years. Like, how can't we just find something that's within our solar system? And the thing is, like, the things we see through these space telescopes, they're stars, they're galaxies, they put off light. Right. But these bodies that are close to us that don't put out light, we can't find them unless the sun reflects off them in just the right angle, or if we happen to be pointing at just the right moment and they blot out a star behind them, or they have some sort of heat signature we can pick up. And anything that's been relatively easy to pick up with like things like heat signatures would have been found by now. But there are things that are cold bodies out in the solar system that don't necessarily stand out against the background.
But it's still there, still have a...
And yeah. It's like...
That's an interesting...
So there's a lot to be seen. And that's why it's constantly happening where we'll have a flyby of a comet that we didn't discover, until like hours before it was about to fly by. And that's happened multiple times. It happens like almost every year, I think.
What's the distance? Like, what's in a binary? Like, what's the average, would you say, distance between the suns in a binary system?
Well, I don't know. That's I don't know enough about it.
Or like how far away?
But I would imagine there can be different types of orbital patterns, and it would depend also on like what are the masses, the relative masses. Like if the two stars that are in a binary pair are close to the same mass, then they'll essentially orbit each other, But if one of them has like the big mass advantage over the other will essentially orbit it like a planet.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe depending, maybe we captured another solar system that flew by in the early formation of our own and captured that body. Who knows? There's so many possibilities. Yeah. But I find it all really intriguing. So yeah, cool. I've been catching all this news about this new whistleblower. I've been seeing a bunch of these teaser clips.
Yeah, I've seen the interview with about the interview about
Yeah, and then Lou Elizondo posted a video either today or yesterday, just talking about it.
Yeah,
it's short, and he's just saying, "Hey, let's take this guy seriously."
So this is Ross Coulthart and News Nation supposedly having been following behind this new whistleblower, and this is the preview that they did on their channel. That they followed him all the way through all of the like they basically had a camera on him the entire time since he's been like releasing his statements and going and providing evidence to the Senate and congressional hearings and stuff. And so, yeah, that's the story. Supposedly that's going to be coming out. And it's from Ross Coulthard on News Nation on YouTube.
So apparently this guy is more in the like security operations side of things rather than like the sort of intelligence bureaucrat kind of thing. Like
he's
like
an operator.
Lou Elizondo.
Yeah.
So
they call him a tier 1 operator is what they're calling him.
Right. So he would be one of these people that actually goes out and does the crash retrievals. And I believe that's supposed to be what we're going to get from him is
what he's seen.
Talk of that, which
would be...
That's cool. It's a great way to up the ante. It's the next logical step in the sort of like whistleblower coming forward
saga
type stuff.
The saga. It's a 3-part saga.
The story of...
We got 2017 New York Times
told,
article.
or the story of a picture being painted for us.
Right, yeah. I mean, history's going to tell. I mean, we'll see.
Either way, I'm excited. So I'll be following it, and I imagine we'll probably be covering whatever comes out of it.
Absolutely.
There's been a lot, man. It's been 2 weeks since we recorded.
Yeah.
LA's on fire. We went down there with our family to Disneyland, and it was great for us because we were in
Anaheim. Was in a sweet spot, man. It was Disney magic.
We didn't even get bad air. I think a bunch of people no,
I didn't smell anything.
Yeah, I think a bunch of people canceled their trips because of it, and so the lines were super reasonable the whole weekend. Like
for the most part, yeah. There was that on night 1. It got pretty busy. It got pretty full towards the end of the night. There was a lot of people
but
there.
we also had some like tricks with like our parents using carts and stuff and like taking them in the exits.
Swap and going in.
I don't know how all that works, but
it's basically just
we never had to wait all that long. It was really the second day we went to California Adventure. The longest line we waited in the whole time was for Guardians.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't actually go into the Marvel's campus area at all.
Yeah. It wasn't as cool as I wanted it to be, and the Spider-Man ride was a little bit of a letdown. It's just a giant video game where you shoot webs. I mean, but it's a cool idea to have like a video game ride. Yeah. It's just like rapid fire web slinging, and by the end you're like, man, my arms are sore. But I got the highest score in my cart. So.
Nice. Was it like whipping you around it at all, or was it just pretty mellow?
Yeah, it like moves you around and like tells this whole story, and then it's like, oh, here's all these spiders, web them up.
You have to web spiders?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, because Spider-Man made something like that turned into a self-replicator, and then it started self-replicating, and all these spider bots were everywhere.
Just going everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, Disneyland was fun. We didn't really get too affected by the fires, although I'm sure there's plenty of people who are being affected. So,
drones are still happening. We had the whole interesting bit with like the Shawn Ryan show. And did you hear about all this stuff?
I don't know. No, not really.
So this guy, I'm gonna butcher this, but yeah, look into it yourselves if you're interested, or maybe we can do an episode if you're interested.
Okay.
But this guy who did the Cybertruck bombing on New Year's, he was a Green Beret, and he like released like they always call it a manifesto, but I think that's a weird use of the term. Anyway,
there's a video.
He had like a thing he wrote. And then Shawn Ryan had this podcast. Well, and the thing he wrote was talking about like the New Jersey drones being like Chinese anti-gravity drones. Which I was like, oh, cool. Don't have any reason to take this guy seriously. Then Shawn Ryan does this podcast where he invites this guy on who, I don't know what he does, but these guys are all like, you know, former special forces and stuff, right?
Right.
So this guy does some sort of outreach work with veterans, and the Cybertruck guy reached out to him.
Oh, really?
And had emailed him, and he did some background checking on this guy and was like, no, this guy is legit. He's a Green Beret. And they were talking about it in such a way where it's like, well, like the details of the bombing were such that he clearly set it up in a way to take him out, but not necessarily anyone else. He wasn't trying to destroy Trump Tower, which he was parked in front of.
Maybe just trying to get attention.
He claimed to have been on the way to Mexico to leave the country. Said he was being followed and stuff like that. And then
this is what he was telling the person the outreach person.
Yeah, and then turns out Shawn Ryan checked and he had email
from this guy
as well. And then I was like, okay, well, these guys are claiming that this guy is legit. But then the FBI came out and said those emails are real. So like it's confirmed that this guy is who he says he is. And so
what's the implication?
Well, it just kind of upgrades a little bit his claim that, it's just weird that he's like talking about these drones and that they're Chinese anti-gravity. Whether I'm a little skeptical on them being Chinese, just because I feel like we'd be shooting them down if they were.
You would hope. But I'm just saying, like the idea, or I lost my train of thought. But so his vote, I guess you would be taking to like if it's true what he's saying. The idea would be. That the Chinese have anti-gravity and we're not doing anything about it. And like, I don't understand the whole bombing part of it unless he's just trying to get attention. Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't either. So
unless
that's why I said I'm going to butcher it. You can like read the whole thing and check the Shawn
like Ryan what if
episode.
It was just a
I'll
message?
Leave links to all that.
What if it was a message to Trump? Like a high level.
Well, that's kind of what
in your face,
his letters
knows.
was like trying to let people know that these things are happening. And there was other things he was calling out. It wasn't just about this. That was just kind of almost a side note to the stuff he was writing about.
Okay.
But the fact that he said it and was who he says he was and did what he did, like that's all weird. It's weird.
Yeah, I've heard things about like him. Was it not him? Oh no, this was the person that drove through a crowd on New Year's Eve too.
Yeah, that was down in
New Orleans.
Yeah.
They tried to pull one news report was trying to draw a connection between them and that because that person was an Army veteran as well.
Right, but I don't think there was any connection there necessarily.
I think just the fact that they were both military people.
Yeah.
But I think they were trying to draw a conclusion. The news was trying to draw a conclusion by that.
Yeah, I'm not convinced, but...
That's interesting. I'll have to listen to that episode.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to do our weekly Bashsar?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
This is a better version of him getting... It's like the full version of him going into the state. So so this is a better version of it.
Cool. All right, I'm down.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here. Have fun. I will see you later.
Bye, dear.
Bye-bye.
This would be weird to do in front of a group of people.
I agree.
It's like... Seems to be getting into his concentration now.
I don't know what that sound.
That's his breathing. Yeah, he's doing a super deep breathing.
In like a pattern, too.
All right, I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right, thank you. First and foremost, we thank each and every one of you individually and again.
All right, guys.
Anyway, says
He's such a character.
I thank you for this co-creation. Man, I listened to all of the telepathy tapes, watched every single one of the videos that they have on their website because I donated, and I just got in. I was like, I got to watch everything now.
Dude, it gets its hooks into you.
And just the idea and the message from Jean-Paul, and like, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but the message in the end,
it's pretty moving.
Yeah, and there's something to it, man. And we know that, if the idea of evolution is true, like, we're going to get to a point where we accept some sort of non-physical reality, and integrate it with our, physical reality. Like, I think all these different things that are happening, just in general, are like seeing the limits of materialism.
It seems like,
and we're kind of reverting back to a more in tuned.
It seems like the quote unquote modern respectable science of the past, had tried really hard, had spent all this time over these years, like curating, pre-internet, like, you could do all this easier. You set up your science communicators, you set up your institutions. Like, it's a lot easier to control, like, what the message is. It's a lot easier to prevent or discourage things from circulating by calling them, pseudoscience and whatnot. And there's all sorts of ways, pulling funding or ruining people's careers, discrediting, arguing. Like, there's a lot of, like, tricks. And then the internet came, and we all started getting peeps of all of these different
lesser known studies and lesser known ideas,
phenomena that are happening in the world, right? And maybe you were lucky enough to like have been exposed to some of these things pre-internet, but I think for a lot of people, the internet is the first way that allowed information to start flowing. To where people started getting into conspiracies, people started getting into UFOs, people started getting into all these psychic phenomena, all of these things that lay outside of the boundary of what science would like you to consider real, right? And I think the facade, when I say science, it's not even really fair to say it. It's more like there are certain gatekeepers who try to
scientism.
The
scientism,
because I feel like I'm doing a disservice to true, honest scientists out there who are really actually open-minded.
I agree with.
And I hate painting with a broad brush like that. But anyway, all of these things all seem to be coming to a head recently. And so many things on the spiritual side, the telepathy tapes with, showing telepathy and other spiritual phenomena, the reincarnation stuff, the out-of-body experiences, all of these channelers, the UFO topic, these anti-gravity topics, like
even medicine, hallucinogenics, and all these other things that can connect you to a lot of these other things in your life.
There's just so many avenues in which, like, the proverbial house of cards appears to about to be crumbling.
Yeah, it seems like.
And I think when it crumbles, it's going to crumble quick. I think for a lot of people, it's already crumbled in their mind, But there still does seem to be a sort of unengaged with these topics majority who just kind of believes what they're told, but that is getting fewer and fewer. Less and less of those people have not been exposed to these topics and at least had to been put in positions where they had to think about it. Maybe they dismiss it, but at least more who hasn't heard of UFOs at this point, right?
I mean, I don't think you can convince me that most households have
a lot of these topics are starting to get to that point. I think UFOs is one of the bigger ones, but
it's going to get to a point where the numbers outnumber their ability to keep it quiet.
It just feels like there's an encroaching new
paradigm,
new worldview that is on the horizon.
Yeah.
And
probably in the next decade.
And that is, it's just so exciting because if we can step over that ledge
hump,
and actually get to a point where
We
there's
integrate
a
it.
sort of acceptance of the reality of a bunch of these phenomena, then we can actually start getting to the work of cataloging it, detailing it, investigating it, and trying to figure out what it all is, how it connects, how do these topics connect to each other, what do they say about the world, what do they say about us. Like, there's all of this science waiting to be done that can't be done until these things are acknowledged as real.
Or at
And
least
I feel like we're on the cusp of this.
We got to get to at least the point where they're not so hardly stigmatized that people are willingly going out of their way to like smear people.
But imagine being at the point where you can actually get funding to
For
study
sure.
these things.
Yeah.
That's going to be the
Whole
new
universities
That's
going
the new
after it.
paradigm.
Yeah,
You know?
no, truly.
Not criticizing people is like the crumbling of the old paradigm, but actually getting funding, like that's in the new paradigm.
Yeah, we're in the crumbling, so we're in the time of like people like getting to grips with the idea of it.
Yeah.
And
I don't expect all of these topics to come out as like, oh, every way that it was rumored to be through our internet rumors and conspiracy theorists and our, armchair philosophy. Like, I don't expect it all to be the way we expect it to be, but I just want us to.
There's definitely gonna be reptilians, though.
I just want to move on from having the like over and over and over conversation of like, are UFOs real?
Right.
I'm past that.
Yeah.
Like, I want to talk about what do they mean?
But what's the implication of it? What's
What are
it
the
mean
types?
for our world?
Yeah.
Is there non-human intelligence that goes
What
along
is
with
their
that?
history, right? Like, I'm sure they could enlighten us to our own, but like, what is theirs?
If I had to guess that the UFO, there's non-human intelligence, and they are interacting with us, they've probably been interacting with us for a long time. So the implications of what we see in our past is going to change. Like all of these different things. Like once there's actual contact and acceptance of it. If that's even truly what it is, we don't know. So let's play that at the end, towards the end.
This one towards the end, like towards the end of the segment,
episode,
the end of the show. Okay,
Yeah.
All right, cool. This is long, but I just wanted to bring it up. Sabine Hossenfelder, have you ever watched any of her stuff?
No.
She's like a true blue theoretical physicist, like contributing to the field and stuff.
Yeah.
She's up on that level, but she's also a communicator, and she has a YouTube channel, and she talks about a bunch of things. Usually she comes down on the pretty skeptical side of things, but this video of hers I was kind of taken back.
The title is interesting. I believe the universe might be able to think.
Yeah, and she spends time sort of arguing and supporting that claim. At least the possibility. She's not saying that she's claiming it absolutely can. She's saying,
is it possible?
That it's possible, and that there's evidence that maybe it could.
Right. Whether all the other factors are in place for it to be thinking.
Right. And so she talks about this idea of locality and how that doesn't really work. And she talks about faster than light travel. Because here's the problem with like the universe as like a brain. Because like when you zoom out, you get to the galaxy, you zoom out, you get to the cluster, you keep zooming, and you see these like maps of like these galactic filaments.
Yeah.
They look like neurons interconnected.
Yep.
We've talked about them on the show before. I'll throw a photo of one up. They look like neurons, right? But the problem is, like, if the universe is thinking, if the universe is some sort of large entity that can think, well, we have the problem of the speed of light. And so you need to have some sort of way of information to travel faster than light in order for that to actually be a conceivable option. And so
Quantum.
and she talks about that. She talks about like wormholes.
What if there's like, since we have quantum physics now, what if there's like a macro physics? Like if there's some change to the fundamental way physics works when you zoom way out and you see these galactic bodies and how they interact and how they work. What if they are operating under, unless we've already discovered that they don't. I don't know.
I think it's a little, well, once you get to that scale,
well, maybe I'm thinking
now
more
you're
like zoom
interacting
out
a lot with dark
multiverse.
energy and dark matter. And
It already does operate.
so I think it gets pretty theoretical out at that limit.
So
Because,
does quantum stuff though too.
right.
So it's possible. I'm saying.
But as far as
somebody do the research now.
people claim, like the assumption is that the laws of physics are what they are everywhere and always.
Except
But
for
we don't actually know that yet
Yeah,
because we can only be here. But
that's true.
anyway, let's go for our first break here. And then I say we just get straight back into this so we can try and get through it as much as possible.
Yep.
I did have a couple other little UFO things I prepared.
Okay.
But maybe that can be on a different episode. Anyway, enjoy this. This is Stevie Nader, Grit.
Don't set it down, think it's not enough. Don't give in, never gas you up. Never lose sight, never lose the luck. Keep it all in, never spew my guts. Let the fire burn, let it burn me up. Burn me up, burn me up. Take a step back, let me soak it in. If I fall off, let me go again. Keep the fire blaze with a lose or win, but never lose. Never listen to the doomsayers. Do no harm, prove 'em wrong, prove 'em wrong, prove 'em wrong.
Welcome back to Reality Check. I do want to actually go over this one that I
Okay.
have been holding on to for a couple weeks. So I found this on X, and this is apparently from a Facebook post that John Lear made before he died. So John Lear, I believe, is the son of the guy who created the Learjet.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was the guy who, he was like a test pilot, and he hung out with our UFO whistleblower.
Who else on there?
No.
The new one.
No. The
Oh, you're talking about Bashsar?
yes. Why can't I find his name in my head?
Yeah, Bashsar.
So he was the one that
That's
was
right.
like taking
Yeah.
that Bashsar
With John,
took out to like
with Knapp early on, too.
Right.
Yeah.
He was part
George
of the whole
Knapp.
like going out and watching the scheduled
That's right.
flights and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And he had befriended Bashsar.
But I don't know if this is that John Lear or his dad, because I don't know if his dad was also John. I don't know.
He might have been, yeah.
Anyway, it says here, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, pure BS. Let me explain what the UAP Task Force is all about. More than 70 years ago, the United States government launched a top-secret investigation of UFOs, which included the recovery and sometimes burial of flying saucers of all types. The investigation was kept more secret than the development of the nuclear bomb. No elected or appointed official was ever told about the program, and it was kept buried inside the Pentagon. President Truman was the first and last president to have been briefed in full about the program. Each subsequent president was told less and less. Over the past 70 years, this program has collected over 50 ET aircraft and over 100 different alien bodies and hundreds of thousands of feet of high-quality film taken of the on-site recoveries and included exterior and interior shots. The recovery teams, initially based in Fort Collins, were called the Blue Berets and were males with no families, no relatives, and usually orphans. This was so that if there was any infraction, however slight, this team member could be eliminated and nobody would be the wiser. The stories of the recoveries were fantastic in keeping the craft out of the sight of the public. Traveling and transporting in complete secrecy, usually only at night, with advanced teams preparing and leading the path for recovery and cleanup teams leaving the property and soil as if nothing had ever been there. Destinations for the recovered craft were well hidden and still in place. Some were taken to Area 51, but not many. Area 51, Groom Lake, was initially prepared in 1948 by CB crews who dug several layers below the dry lake. It was then covered up, and only by sheer coincidence did Lockheed choose the exact area for testing the U-2. The underground area was kept totally secret until the early 90s when the original runway caved in to one of the hangars underground. A second runway, several hundred feet to the east, was built, and the original runway was not used again, and the hangar repaired. In the late 70s, more underground hangars were built under the Tonopah Test Range, Antelope Dry Lake, which connected with huge tunnels and connected with Groom Lake and Papoose Dry Lake underground hangars. In the early 80s, another huge, completely underground facility was built under the Paiute Mesa.
Paiute.
Or Paiute, I don't know how you would say that.
Mesa.
Along with dual runway and hangar 13 miles to the north under Gold Flat. By the early 2000s, all facilities, TTR, Groom Lake, Papoose, and Paiute Mesa, were all connected with enormous underground tunnels and hangars. These facilities were not only secret facilities in Nevada, there was one to the west of Pioche and one near Ely, and one near Ferber Flats in northern Nevada, and of course are probably others. Manning these facilities and keeping them secret was a major problem, so a maglev high-speed subway was built from under the Luxor
With
additional parking and terminals under Aria and Bellagio, from where over 5,000 workers a day were whisked to work and back in less than 20 minutes. Very few of these workers know about the hidden ET craft in the underground hangars. Most were given a false story about the existence of ET craft and their occupants. Today, there are less than 40 people who know the true story of the recoveries, which began in the late 30s. It was obvious to the Pentagon that they would have to eventually release some kind of story about UFOs, so they came up with an ingenious idea to make an unidentified aerial phenomena task force, give it a few tic tacs, rolling BBs, and non-identifiable radar scans to the public. Then put Luis Elizondo, who knew nothing about the real recovery program, and put him in contact with former Senator Reid and his friends Bob Bigelow, who always had an interest in UFOs. Then the Pentagon announced that they had other things to take care of, and they were going to let Elizondo, Reid, and Bigelow run with the UFO ball. Gave them the Tic Tac radar photos, $22 million, and pretend they were going to let them run the UFO recovery show. Meanwhile, the Pentagon had over 70 years of ET artifacts, 50 craft, bodies, and film carefully hidden away and safe from public scrutiny forever. The UAP task force is just a brilliant scam perpetrated by the Pentagon to hide their deep involvement in UFOs. John Lear, July 25th, 2020.
Wow.
So, I thought that was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would imagine Lou Elizondo's role would be. He would be a guy that they put in charge of a thing who got interested because of what he was seeing.
Mm-hmm.
It was only the tip of the iceberg. And in order to eventually put out some sort of story on UFOs, whether it be manufactured or real, you have to do some sort of like leakage like this. And Lou Elizondo's doing the work that we want him to do, but with limited information, just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Limited information and limited ability to gain any further information, right?
And it was on John Lear's Facebook.
Okay. He's passed? He says he lives in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Celebration has been.
Yeah.
Somebody's taking control of his account, apparently.
Yeah. So he died about 2 years after that. I think this is the same John Lear as the Bob Lazar story.
Yeah, it is. This is the same
the
guy.
son of the Learjet guy.
Yeah. But he himself was a test pilot too, right? And
Mm-hmm.
did a bunch of military work and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if he did military work, but I know he was. Well, I guess he probably did if he was a test pilot. Anyway. Thought that was interesting. And then I also found this through browsing on X, this thing called the Hottel Memo, which is like an interesting memo on the FBI's website that...
It's on their website too. Huh?
Yeah. That appears to mention flying saucers. Well, it does mention flying saucers here.
Subject line says flying saucers.
Information concerning. The following information was furnished to SA blanked out. An investigator for the Air Force stated that 3 so-called flying saucers had been recovered in New Mexico. They were described as being circular in shape with raised centers, approximately 50 feet in diameter. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, but only 3 feet tall, dressed in metallic cloth of a very fine texture. Each body was bandaged in a manner similar to the blackout suits used by speed flyers and test pilots. According to Mr. Blanked Out informant, the saucers were found in New Mexico due to the fact that the government has a very high-powered radar set up in that area, and it is believed the radar interfered with the controlling mechanism of the saucers. Further evaluation was attempted by EA Blanked Out concerning the above.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard reference to this.
Yeah.
The Hottel Memo. That's cool to actually see it on the FBI's website there.
Yeah, and they even have a little article here that talks about it.
And the person involved.
Yeah. They said
Hottel.
it's a real document, but it doesn't necessarily prove the flying saucers.
Because there's no response, obviously. Like
Right.
It's just a memo to the FBI, it looks like. Or it's just a testimony.
Right.
You know?
Which led me to find another UFO article because they mentioned it here.
Okay.
Yeah. Second, the Hottel Memo is dated nearly 3 years after the infamous events of Roswell in July 1947. There's no reason to believe the two are connected. The FBI on Roswell, another popular page, is posted elsewhere on the vault. And yes, this is FBI talking about Roswell. Flying disc information concerning 8th Air Force telephonically advised this office that an object purporting to be a flying disc was recovered near Roswell,
New Mexico.
New Mexico. The dates, the disc is hexagonal in shape.
Hexagonal.
Yeah. And was suspended from a balloon by a cable, which balloon was approximately 20 feet in diameter. Further advised that the object found resembles high-altitude weather balloon. Oh, this is the weather balloon one. With a radar reflector. But that telephonic conversion between their office and right field had not blanked out. Borne out this belief. Disc and balloon being transported to right field by special plane examination. Information provided to this office because C7 national interest in case. Huh.
Yeah, so that's them doing the cover-up. That's the cover-up memo.
Yeah, right.
No further investigation being conducted.
Yeah.
At the very end.
So, yeah.
Very interesting.
We got more UFO stuff going on.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to Lacerta and
the conversation or an interview with a reptilian.
yes. So let me see what question we were on that we left on. He had asked, can you tell me something about the natural history and evolution of your species? How old is your species? Have you evolved from primitive reptiles as mankind has evolved from apes? Right. She says, I'll go a few paragraphs back. By the way, one result of the fusion bomb was the fallout of different elements and materials created in the burning process, and one of those materials was iridium. Your human scientists today see the iridium concentration on the ground as evidence of an asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we finished off with them saying that that was actually a fusion bomb used by one of the reptilian races
during one of the wars.
Yeah. And this iridium we're seeing, these iridium microspherals and all these like artifacts that are being found that are being used as evidence for impact proxies.
Could be evidence for other things as well.
Which Robert Schoch also says could be solar events, could be caused from solar events.
Right. It's high energy events, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's more acceptable to accept like something coming in and hitting Earth because we know that happens. But it's less acceptable to say there was a war between different species back then.
So it picks up here.
She says, that is not true. But how should you know that? Well, most of the dinosaurs died. Not all in the detonation, but in the bad things which came after the war, especially in the nuclear winter and the fallout. Nearly all dinosaurs and reptilians were dead within the next 20 years. Some of them, especially those in the oceans, were able to survive the next 200 to 300 years, even in this changed world. But these species also died because the climate had changed. The nuclear winter ended after 200 years, but it was colder on Earth than before. Despite the cataclysm, some species were able to survive. Fish, like the sharks, birds, little creepy mammals, your ancestors, various reptiles like crocodiles, and there were a special kind of small but advanced dinosaurs which had developed together with the last large animal reptilians like the species you call Tyrannosaurus. This new reptile was walking on two legs and looked a little bit like your reconstruction of an iguanodon. It originated in this family, but it was smaller, around 1.5 meters tall, with some humanoid features and changed bone structure, a larger skull and brain, a hand with a thumb which was able to grab things, a different organism and digestion, advanced eyes in the middle of the head like your eyes, and most important, with a new and better brain structure. This was our direct ancestor. There are theories that the radiation from the bomb took part in the mutations of the organism of this new breed, but this is not proven. Nevertheless, this little humanoid-like dinosaur evolved during the following 30 million years. As I have said earlier, a species need generally more time to evolve than you think. If the evolution is not artificially induced, like in your case, from an animal to a more or less thinking being. These beings were intelligent enough not to die in the next millions of years because they learned to change their behavior. They lived in caves instead of the very cold nature, and they learned to use stones and branches as the first tools, and the use of fire as help to warm them, especially to warm their blood, which is very important for our kind to survive. During the next 20 million years, the species was divided by nature into 27 subspecies.
Jeez.
Unfortunately, former reptilian species were prone to divide themselves in a more or less illogical way into subspecies during the evolution process. You can clearly see this in the unnecessarily high number of animal dinosaur species in earlier times. And there were many, mainly primitive, wars between these subspecies for dominance. Well, nature was not very friendly to us, and as far as we know, from the 27 subspecies, 24 were extinct in primitive wars and in evolution because their organism and mind was not developed enough to survive, and as main reason, they were not able to change their blood temperature in the right way if the climate changed.
Change your blood temperature?
Yeah, imagine that being one of your meditation powers.
It is.
50 million years after the war and after the end of the dinosaurs, only 3, now also technological, advanced reptilian species were remaining on this planet together with all the other lower animals. Through nature and artificial crossbreeding, these species were united into one reptilian species. And through the invention of genetic manipulations, we were able to eliminate the dividing prone genes in our genetic structure. So they genetically engineered themselves to not continue mutating and splitting off into different species, is what I'm hearing here.
Yeah. So they just we're good. We're at the pinnacle. We can do all this advanced stuff. We don't need to mutate. And maybe they were more susceptible. Maybe there's something about their genetic makeup that makes them more susceptible to change.
According to our history and belief, this was the time when our final reptilian race, as you see me today, was created by use of genetic engineering. This was around 10 million years ago, and our evolution nearly stopped at this point. Well, actually, there were some minor changes in our look toward a more humanoid and mammal-like appearance during the coming ages, but we have not divided again into subspecies. You see, we are a very old race in comparison to your kind, which was just jumping around as small monkey-like animals in the trees at this time while we invented our technology, colonized other planets of the system, built large cities on the planet, which disappeared without a trace in the ages, and engineered our own genes while your genes were still those of animals. 10 million years ago, the small simians started to grow, and they came down from the trees to the ground, again because of the change of the climate, especially on the so-called African continent. But they evolved very slow, and it is normal for a mammal. And if nothing extraordinary had happened to your kind, we wouldn't be able to sit here and talk, because I would sit in my comfortable modern house and you would sit in your cave clothed with fur, trying to discover the secrets of fire. Or you would maybe sit in one of our zoos. But the things had developed differently, and you believe now that you are the crown of creation, and you can sit in the modern house, and we must hide and live beneath the earth. and in remote areas. Around 1.5 million years ago, another alien species arrived at Earth. It was surprisingly the first species since over 60 million years. This would be more surprising for you if you would know how many different species are here today. The interest of this humanoid species, you call them Elohim today, was not the raw materials and the copper. It were, to our astonishment, the unadvanced ape humanoids. Despite of our presence on this planet, the aliens decided to help the apes to evolve a little bit faster to serve them in the future as some kind of slave race in coming wars. The fate of your species was not really important for us, but we didn't like the presence of the Elohim on our planet, and they didn't like our presence on their new galactic zoo planet. And so your 6th and 7th creation was the reason for a war between us and them. You can read about that war, for example, partly in the book you call Bible, in a very strange way of description. The real truth is a very long and difficult story. Should I continue? So, yeah, I mean, that would be pretty crazy. If there was a species here that's been here for tens of millions of years, we're talking about how old our species is. Like, yeah, we're babies.
Yeah, I mean, if they and the idea that they could be living amongst us and have the ability to like manipulate our mind to like just show them as one of us,
right?
And like these people who say they see reptiles or have seen a reptile, or
yeah.
Have you seen some of the videos of people like
the people with like leaders, the slits for eyes and the like the sideways blinking and stuff? Yeah. I mean, I've seen it, but I just don't know whether it's all just editing,
right?
Which it probably is.
It's so easy, especially you zoom in on a video and everything's blurry, and then you just insert that.
Yeah. I mean, I went down the whole.
I could do that.
I went down the whole David Icke rabbit hole for a while in my life. So.
Yeah, I never watched a ton of his stuff. I remember you recommended some of his stuff a while ago, but I never really got into his stuff. Yeah,
he went full down the reptilian stuff like way back before my uncultured mind was ready for it. And I was like, do I believe that there's freaking reptiles running the world? And it kind of spooked me out, and it might have been one of the reasons I like took a step back from all these topics.
Yeah.
Because, I just found myself, I'm like, I think I might believe that.
I think if it was to come out as being true,
it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Because there are certain people who go about living in this world who just don't seem to have the same, like, internal, like, compass or like reasoning, or like you're just like, you're different, and you like, I mean, I'm not talking about people in my personal life, but like leaders and other like people, like they just do things completely
like
different than
Elon
I'm used
Musk's.
to. Or Mark Zuckerberg's, or even your world leaders in some cases.
Some of them.
But that just could show that I haven't been around the world and met a ton of people. That's what I thought that could show.
All right, let's get through this next little chunk and then we'll take a break. Should I continue? No, not now. I've made some notes about your history and now I have some questions. Lacerta, please ask. Okay. First of all, you handle with a very large time scale. You claim that your primitive ancestors lived together with the dinosaurs, survived the, as you called it, artificial cataclysm, and evolved then over the 40 million years, and your evolution was completed 10 million years ago. This sounds very unbelievable to me. Can you say something to this? I understand that this must sound absolutely unbelievable to you because you are a young and genetically engineered species. Your historical horizon ends at a scale of just some thousands of years, and you think this is right, but it isn't. This is impossible. Your programmed mind is obviously not able to handle with such large timescales. Our evolution time seemingly incredibly long to you, but this is, in fact, the original way of nature. Remember, your early mammal ancestors developed together with dinosaurs, and they survived the bomb like us. They evolved slowly during the next millions of years, and they divided into various species and shapes. Some of them larger, some of them smaller. This is evolution of the body. But what about their mind and intelligence? They were simple animals. The mammals evolved since, let us say, 150 millions of years, but only in the last 2 to 3 millions of years, they were able to become intelligent and thinking. And within this small period, beings like you were created. From nature, 148 millions of years time for the evolution of animal-like mammals, 2 million years time for the development of more or less intelligent beings like you. Ask yourself, do you really think this accelerated evolution is natural? Then your species is more ignorant than I've thought. We have not evolved wrong, but you.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very interesting. It's telling us like our ego or our,
the time scale for the evolution of hominid intelligence that led to us is pretty short on the time scale.
Percentages are way off. It doesn't seem like.
Yeah, on the time scale of everything.
And there would have to be some sort of
I'm
event.
not an evolutionary biologist, so I haven't seen this all mapped out in some giant timeline. So I don't know
what's normal.
But it seems like a total rewrite and overhaul of the brain is a pretty freaking big deal.
Well, and just the idea too, we got to understand, not even just what by the timescales that they're talking about, but on the timescales that we can actually comprehend. Mm-hmm. We know humans have been here for hundreds of thousands of years, but only in the last 10,000 years, or at least we have evidence showing
that Homo sapiens has been here for at least 200,000 to 300,000 years, probably more.
Only in the last 10 to 12,000 years do we develop agriculture and language and all of these things.
And that's weird.
That's an accelerated timeline of its own.
Right.
If we're going to believe the mainstream idea.
It's a super accelerated timeline on one end of a seesaw, and on the other end, it's total stagnancy.
You're exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Which is weird.
And that doesn't seem natural.
Right.
So either our genetic makeup is...
Yeah, it's interesting because then our entire existence
has been just fast.
Is that little bit on the end of a seesaw, and the rest of it is everything that led to us becoming hominids, right? Interesting.
At least becoming the thinking beings we are now, right? The thinking and doing beings that we are.
Well, because it's a totally different ask for a hominid to start walking upright. Well, that's one type ask, and then there's another ask of all the different ways in which the body changes, but then the brain stuff seems the most mysterious.
But then if you put the context of all of these, the telepathy and all of these reincarnation and the idea that the brain, once the brain was developed...
we were eating a shit ton of mushrooms.
Well, that too. At least our brain was wired completely different than it would be today, right? We cannot recognize the way that our brain would be flowing with ideas as when, imagine being 12,000 years ago and you're just now discovering agriculture. Your brain is completely wired differently than what we are living with today.
Right.
But once our brains got to whatever connectivity, like with the idea of like this telepathy and consciousness, and like, are we tapping into something that was always there, or is our brain all encompassing of consciousness?
Yeah.
Were we not conscious? Like, were we Homo sapiens before, but not able to be conscious until our brains were tuned to the right frequency of being able to pick up what it is that we consider consciousness? And that's where the ideas come from, the ability to have ideas and turn ideas into physical, labor, which turns into products, which turns into manipulating our space, like maybe that's what explains that quick onset of things, like our brains being turned on. And maybe there was times previous to that our brains were turned on or tuned to the right frequency, but we were Homo sapiens before.
The thing is, it lines up with our mythology. Like, there's multiple strains of human mythology that sort of line up with us being created by the gods.
Yeah.
Which maybe wasn't a full creation, but rather a tinkering or a genetic, messing with the hominids that were already here.
And maybe it's only in the last 12,000 years that we are conscious as we are now.
Right.
But we were still here. Our physical bodies were still here and doing things. But maybe there was some sort of light bulb moment or some sort of caveat that we finally, reached, or I don't know. And it goes back to like even some of the stuff we read in Secret History of the World stuff. Like, our bodies and our experience of the world might have been completely different in the last age, pre 12,000 years ago, right? Before civilization started arising. Like, maybe our bodies were here, but our minds were not, and it was this flowering. Our bodies were just, they were living, they were here, but they were not filled with life yet. In our sense of knowing life.
On our trip down to Disneyland, I drove with Mom and Dad, and on our way home, we were just pounding the telepathy tapes.
Oh, were you?
I think we got through 7 episodes on the drive home.
What was Mom? Did you guys talk about it a bit?
Yeah, we did. But the point I want to bring up is, like, listening to it again, it has me... I just got shook with this idea. Like, what if we've always sort of had this telepathic communication? What if that's like the original language? And then what if this like concept from the Bible of the Tower of Babel and the splitting of humans and the dividing our tongues is actually the creation of language? The creation of spoken language and moving away from the universal language, which is the talking with your mind.
Interesting. And what if at that exact same time there was a subspecies split? There was a speciation event where you had people who did not want to get rid of their telepathic way of life.
Right.
And they split off from the people who wanted, there was some war or some sort of like conflict where they were like, no, everybody has to use language. And they were like, no, we want to stick with our telepathic ways. And they split off and they were able to hide because this new era of men who are, man in the colloquial, like men and women, split off into their language model. And we have this non-language model sitting out there.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's a fascinating idea. Yeah,
I find it all pretty fascinating. And it's just funny that like all these like UFO topics start dealing in with telepathy, and now we've got the telepathy tapes like bringing validity to it.
I want to have a full-on telepathic conversation with one of these spellers.
That would be awesome.
And ask him some questions.
Right. Well, maybe
tune in next week.
Maybe we can find a local organization to volunteer for.
I think that would be worthwhile. All right, let's take a break.
All right, this is Soul Food's called The Unheard.
We'll be right back.
Representing the first class of the unheard. Spitfire every breath till my lungs burn. Same feeling that you get when the love hurts. Double shots to the heart, but it's much worse. They said you gotta crawl before you run first. But to know truth, you must unlearn. From the heart of the slums to the suburbs, to the front lines where the kills confirm. Disturb, the comfort, the converge. It's reverse, we kill, the conserve. Spend our last dime, we earn, to come first. America's dreaming in a slumber. Wake up, I'm just an engine in the cupboard. Seeking for a lover in the midst of all this clutter in the gutter where we roll like bowling or roll dice. Gambling with my whole life, put it on the whole line. It's about time like a stop clock. 2 smoking barrels and a lock stock. Point it at your feet, make you fox stride right before you hit the ground like a top rock, like cloud.
The only one who looks up when it's raining. My words are bombs waiting to be detonated. So we take our needs and make it stay. And my words are possibilities. I hold in my
We speak for the unheard, underserved. Run with words to stun the herd. And loves prefer to clutch the burden that they drop in a community effort to catch wreck. They plotting on them. But we gotta watch the clock keep us. Time is an illusion and using it to defeat us. The secret is a seek within. Indeed, we win. The deepest sin is self-neglect. Now let's begin to see the God principle inside of the invisible. Intangible manuals what I listen to. Silence mainly can't explain these visions I've been getting in meditation. They drain me. Serpents surrounding the compound. APEP got me out of step like lockdown. Codes coming straight from the light. Look to the sky when I need some advice. Remember who you are, that's the call of the lion. I ain't afraid of failure, that's why I'm still striving. Applying the lessons I learned as a cub. So I stay living life like a dream, one love.
the only one who looks up when it's raining. My words are bombs waiting to be detonated. So we take our needs and make it stay. And my words are possibilities. I hold in my hand.
See, I'm a simple man just like you. I just wanna be heard. We all have a story to tell. Speak now or forever hold your word.
Never give up, never give in. Step to the plate, don't wait to be great.
Take your place with the greats, with the kings and the queens. It's your life, take it back, chase your dreams.
Determination, if I could build one nation, we all come together with love as a religion.
I'm living proof that anything's possible. Speak for the unheard voice that's inside of you.
Yeah, all my people in the place to be. If you're down with me, get your hands up high. Put us straight to the sky, come on y'all and lie.
My words are bombs waiting to be detonated. So we take our needs and make a stay. And these words are possibilities. I hold in my hand. The only one who looks up when it's raining. My words are bombs waiting to be detonated. So we take our needs and make a stay. And my words are possibilities. I hold in my hand.
Welcome back to segment 3.
Yeah,
Episode
Duality
56.
Check podcast. We're reading all about reptilians today.
So we've got to address that we were just ended the last segment talking about the telepathy tapes, and we talked about it throughout the segment and before even.
Yeah, and then talking about the idea of the division of languages.
And the possibility that maybe we divided as a people. Anyway,
And then the song being
and the
called-
song that Dean chose, unbeknownst to him, was called "The Unheard," and I think it's so fitting. And we listened to the song, and the song lyrics and the progression of the song actually fit really well with the message of the telepathy tapes. And I just wanted to point it out, like TJ's there talking about how, you know, my words are bombs waiting to be detonated. Like this idea that words and like the ability to speak can be weapons used against us and other people. And, you know, this idea of the, you know, the unheard here. It's like the people who don't use the words and don't use, this idea, and then it progresses into, part of the melody, or even the rap there too had some good stuff, but and the idea that like your words have the ability to change your perspective, like it has that kind of message throughout the song, has the ability to create your worldview just based on the words you hear, the words you say, So like maybe it is really the way to achieve what it is most people are wanting to achieve is like this idea of like not using words.
Yeah.
Language itself is actually
Bashsar's
detrimental.
line where the secret is to seek within.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rest in peace, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, he passed.
R.I.P. man.
And yeah, Carlos stuff was good too, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a good song.
It's a good song. I'm
It's a good
proud
song.
of it. Proud of that one.
And I think it was very pointed at our topic there.
That's
So
funny.
I
was just
bring
like,
that.
let's play the real version of this on the podcast. I haven't done
Bam.
that yet.
Perfect placement.
And then it just landed in the middle of that conversation. So cool. Yeah, I usually choose these before we start the episode.
Yeah,
so
you do.
That just
I know.
kinda
I'm
happened.
here. That's the thing that I'm amazed by. You. That's why I'm always pointing it out.
It's like
That
tarot.
you pick them, you put them down,
Yeah.
and then something amazing happens. Where, anyway,
Love it. Love it.
let's get back into our interview.
With Lacerta.
Lacerta.
All right. So, what is his name? Okay.
Okay, yeah. He's the interviewer.
His next question is, I understand, but I have another question. You've mentioned many facts about the ancient war between aliens 65 million years ago. This happened very long before your kind became really intelligent, as far as I have understood you. Why do you know so many things about that first war and about the evolution of your species? This is a good question, she says. Much better than the previous. I like that she takes these little digs. She thinks we're stupid.
Yeah.
And she's probably right. And I have not explained it properly to you. Our knowledge about our first war comes completely from an ancient artifact, which was found around 16,000 years ago from our archaeologists on the continent you call North America today. They found there a round plate with a diameter of approximately 47 of your centimeters. This plate was made of an even, for us, unknown magnetic material, and inside the plate there was another smaller crystal plate which contained an enormous amount of information coded in the molecular structure of the crystal. This memory plate was manufactured from the last bomb survivors of human race from Procyon. Already 65 million years ago, but it was completely intact when we found it. Our scientists were able to encode the messages and data, and so we heard the first time about the events which took place in the distant past and which led to the extinction of the dinosaurs. The plate contained detailed descriptions of both species, but more about the humanoids and about the events and weapons, including the fusion bomb. It contained also a description of the animals and saurians on Earth, including our pre-intelligent ancestor species. The rest of our knowledge about our evolution comes from skeletons and from back reading and de-encoding of our DNA. You see, we know the real truth about our roots since 16,000 years. Before that time, there was a more religious idea of our creation. Yeah. So
they had a religion.
What if they fell prey to a psyop that planted that disc there, and they are just believing what the humanoids want them to believe?
And maybe we're the intelligent one.
OK says, what have happened with both alien species? Answer: we don't know exactly. The surviving humanoids on Earth obviously died in the years after the bomb, and others of their kind and reptilians never came back to Earth as far as we know. Concerning the reptilian aliens, there's possibility that it was physically impossible for them to return because the matter between bubbles is sometimes in rapid movement.
Interesting. The matter between bubbles.
There's possibility that it was physically impossible for them to return because the matter between bubbles is sometimes in rapid movement. The current theory is that both species had ceased to exist during the millions of years. Question: you've mentioned skeletons of your kind. How can it be that human scientists haven't found any trace of you and your ancestors if you really lived for such a long time on this planet? We have found many skeletons of primitive dinosaurs, but none of an advanced reptilian being with a larger skull and brain and a hand with a thumb, as you have described it before. Answer: yes, you have, but your great scientists were not able to reconstruct the skeletons completely because they wanted to reconstruct reptilian animals, not intelligent beings. You would laugh if you knew how many of the, especially small Soren skeletons in your museums are totally wrong constructions of never existing beings because you used many bones which didn't really belong together. And sometimes you made artificial bones if something was missing you needed to construct an animal Soren. Many of your scientists are aware of this problem, but they don't make it public because they can't explain it, and they claim that the right bones were just missing and their reconstruction is right. Many bones of us were used for iguanodon reconstructions. For example, the hands with the visible thumb. Look at an iguanodon in a museum, and you will see that I'm right. A scientist in the country you call United States has built a nearly correct skeleton of our kind some years ago, but the local government, which is partly aware of our existence, confiscated the reconstruction. As we live today, and since thousands of years, nearly completely beneath the earth, you will not find any cadavers or skeletons of us. Yeah, that's interesting. That's I did know that when they reconstruct dinosaurs and some of these things, like it's very, I don't even know if it ever has happened that we've ever gotten like a complete specimen.
Well, I think the only ones have been like Tyrannosaurus.
Yeah.
They are like some of the other dinosaurs, but not.
And so most of the ones you see, I know they do like create molds of bones of the missing ones so that they can create these like big display skeletons that they put in
especially if they got
stuff.
a lot of it, but they don't have enough. Yeah, I mean, I could see that being possible, but I don't know. It's just one of those things that you have to believe that from the beginning they were doing this, right? And that we just continued to
Well, it's not like these things come with a manual for how to put them together.
That's
it's not like assembling Legos.
But then it's like
and
doing
your
it right,
preconception about what type of shape a thing should take would have a pretty big influence on what you put together.
Absolutely.
Especially
I agree, but then
in the
like
pre-DNA testing days.
It's just the fact that like they would go so far as to like if somebody was to take the exact bones and like do like a 3D model of it and move them into the correct order and actually make it make sense for those exact same bones to be of some sort of like humanoid creature. You know, I think that's worth it. And like the fact that we would just deny it outright, that's the things that drive me the most nuts. It's like science is supposed to be open to like all questions, but it's just not, you know? It's just not.
Yeah. All right. You speak sometimes about underground cities and artificial sunlight. Do you mean something like hollow Earth with this? Is there a second sun inside our planet? Answer: no, Earth is not really completely hollow, and there is no second sun inside. This story is ridiculous and physically not possible. Even your species should be intelligent enough not to believe this. Do you know how much mass a sun must have to produce energy and light for a longer time by fusion? Do you really think that there could be a small active sun inside the planet? When I talk about our subterranean home, I talk about large cave systems. The caves you have discovered near to the surface are tiny in comparison to real caves and huge caverns deeper in the earth, in a depth of about 2,000 to 8,000 of your meters, but connected with many hidden tunnels to the surface or surface near caves. And we live in large and advanced cities and with colonies inside such caves. Major sites of us are beyond the Arctic and the Antarctic, Inner Asia, North America, and Australia. If I talk about artificial sunlight in our cities, I don't mean a real sun, but various technological sources of light, including gravitational sources, which illuminates the caverns and tunnels. There are special cave areas and tunnels with strong UV light in every city that we use that places to heat our blood. Furthermore, we have also some surface sun places in remote areas, especially in America and Australia. They're in America, Drew. We can find them.
Gotta find those caves. You gotta find those. You gotta get some like ground penetrating radar. Go find the really deep caves and go sit at the entrances of them, watch them bathe in the sunlight.
This is the exact question I would have asked. Where can we find such surface near entry to your world? Answer, do you really think I will tell you their exact location? If you want to find such an entry, you have to search it by yourself, but I would advise you not do that. When I came to the surface 4 days ago, I used an entry approximately 300 of your kilometers north from here to a large lake, but I doubt that you would be able to find it. There are only a few entries in this part of the world. More are far more north and east. As a little advice, if you're in a narrow cave or in a tunnel or even in something that looks to you like an artificial mine shaft, and as deeper you walk, as smoother appear the walls, and if you feel unusual warm air steaming from the depth, or if you hear a rushing sound of streaming air in a ventilation or elevator shaft, then look for a special kind of artificial and smooth wall somewhere in the cave with a door made of gray metal. If you would be able to open that door, but I doubt this, you would be in a usually round technical room with ventilation systems and elevators to the depth. This is probably an entry to our world. If you have reached this point, you should know that we are now definitely aware of your presence. You are already in big trouble. If you have entered the round room, but you should look for one or two reptilian symbols on the walls. If there are no symbols or other symbols, you may be in bigger trouble as you think, because not every underground installation belongs to our kind. Some new tunnel systems are operated from alien races, including hostile races. My general advice, if you find yourself in a, for you, strange underground installation, run away as fast as you can.
It's good advice.
Yeah, but it just sounds fun to explore some underground installations.
Yeah. I mean, if I've ever stumbled upon one, I don't know if I'd be able to resist going down and seeing what the hell it was.
You would think of your boys and you'd be like, I can't do this. And then you would call me and tell me to.
Yeah, I hope you'd already be there, and then you would just go together.
You'd be like, Dean, I gotta feed Wyatt. Here's a camera and a flashlight.
Go down there.
Yeah.
Gotta find it though.
Okay asks, you mentioned earlier that you use the name Lacerta when you're among humans, and that you enjoy it to be in the real sun on the surface of Earth. But how can you be among humans? You don't look like us, so anyone will see that you belong to another species. Why have nobody seen and described of beings like you and your kind lives already since our creation together with us on the same planet? Can you explain that to me? Answer. First, my kind was, of course, seen and described and worshipped many times in your primitive past. For example, in your religious writings like your Christian Bible, you can find descriptions of it and even simple drawings of us. For also in the southern part of the American continent on various temples, so-called wise men from India and from Asian mountains have described our species many times in writings. together with other wise men from the African continent. I also think we are the most mentioned non-human species, maybe besides the Elohim in your history. If you don't believe me, have a look at your history and you will see the truth in my words. Your great scientists called the belief in us superstition and religion, and today's intelligent humans have forgotten our presence on the surface in the past. Furthermore, our species is seen even today, sometimes from human witnesses in its original shapes on Earth or in our surface near entries and tunnel systems. But fortunately, you and your media don't take reports of such crazies serious. That's good for us, and that's the reason why we allow those people to see us as we really are. Some of my species are also in direct contact with human scientists and politicians from the surface. But this is top secret, as you would call it, and nobody of your public knows anything about it. The matter of these meetings is generally the upcoming war with and between the alien species and our assistance in this war. But there is also another explanation why we can walk among you and why you are not able to recognize us: mimicry. The following may again sound unbelievable and even shocking to you, but as you have asked, I will explain it. I have told you before that we have more advanced mental abilities than your species, and with more advanced, I mean that we are able to use telepathy and telekinesis from our birth on. In fact, mother and newborn child communicate directly with telepathy during the first months, without special training as you need it to activate these sleeping parts of your brain. The structure of our brain is a little bit different to yours, and our hypothesis is larger and more active than yours, especially when we are in sunlight. Our own abilities are very strong in comparison to yours, but weak in comparison to the, quote, matter string bubble mind forces of some of the alien species on this planet. I was never very good in that mind things, but we all have these primary abilities and can use them, for example, for our protection or even for attack. When we are on the surface and we meet human beings, even a large group of them, this makes no difference. All your minds are like one mind. We are able to touch their mind and induce them via telepathy, the command, see us as one of your kind. And the weak human mind will accept this order without refusion, and they will see us, despite our reptilian look, as normal humans. I've done this many times, and you weak humans generally see me as an attractive brown-haired woman because I have created this special mimicry image in my mind years ago, and I can induce it into your minds without problems. I've needed some time at the beginning to learn the use of the mimicry correctly, but when it worked nearly automatically, I can even walk among a group of yours and nobody will recognize what I am. There's a simple switch. See us as we really are / see us as we want you to see us in your consciousness, which was placed there from the Elohim when they created your kind. And we can use this switch to convince you that you see humans when you look at us. Other aliens use this switch too. It's easier than you think. When there are meetings between your kind and aliens, which seem to look exactly like yours, these aliens have used that switch, and some of the meetings with man-like aliens can also be explained with meetings with my kind. When I met EF the first time, he saw me as a normal human woman, and I remember that he was very frightened and shocked when I revealed him my real appearance.
That would be pretty shocking.
Yeah. So this is an interesting concept. This idea that there was a switch installed in our mind, which is like allows backdoor access into us to make us, to allow essentially like incepting of ideas into our minds.
Yeah. Or at least the ability to control your perception, your visual cortex, like your ability to detect something that's outside of the norm.
I
And
wonder
it could
for
also
people
be
who-
some sort of programming that was just naturally in there too that doesn't need much coaxing either.
Yeah.
Because we all know that we see what we want, what we expect. You know?
I wonder, I mean, again, so assuming any of this is real, I wonder if, like someone who was like advanced spiritually, like in meditation and stuff like that, if they could maybe like defeat an attempt to use a switch like that on them, or notice even an attempt to use a switch like that on them.
Well, I listened to another Bashsar video recently, and he talked about how, like, if you wanted to like see this precursor, like being that walks among us, and in the way he describes it, you just go and find a public place where you can sit and be completely still and calm, and all you're there to do is just to watch people as they walk by you, to just notice them. No preconceptions, no like forcing things on them, just watching as things are happening in front of you. And you're just watching, you're sitting on a bench, people think things are walking by, and there might be a change in the energy, or like a change in, like a sudden, like unmistakable, like recognition that one of these people is actually, and they might look at you and notice you, and you might have this like connection, or at least a momentary thing. And he said, you know, that's just, and so basically you're putting this intention out there to like see one of these beings that may be among you, and then they'll reveal themselves in some way, you know. It's kind of, I don't know what the context was, but that's what he was saying in this response to whoever asked a question. It's interesting.
Do we want to take another break, or we want to just go through? I mean, we're barely halfway through this document, but we can probably get to the halfway point.
Yeah, you want to power through, or you want to take a break? I'm down for either.
I guess let's power through here.
Okay.
Do you mean that you can really make me believe that I talk now with an attractive brown-haired human woman instead of a reptilian being like you? Answer, probably, but I don't think so in your special case. When someone expects to see a human woman instead of me, I can do it without problems with his mind, even with large groups, because nobody expects to see a reptile woman. But I have allowed your mind to see me in my original appearance from our first meeting on, and I have never induced something into your mind. So you have already realized that I'm not human. If I would now try to change this, it would probably lead to an absolute confusion or to unconsciousness, and I don't want to harm you. As I have said, I'm not very good in these things.
Interesting, yeah. So that basically tells you right there.
Yeah.
Like, your expectations make it easier for them.
Yeah.
So if we ever got to a place where we were completely convinced that they were there and that they were among us,
or
it
if
would be
you have
harder for
no
them to
expectation for the person walking down the street to be
exactly
human. But how do you do that?
That's what Bashsar was saying too in that thing.
Yeah.
He was like, have no expectations of what you're going to experience.
But it's easy to say have no expectations, but how do you achieve it?
Of course. Well, and you know, in a lot of the way he talks, it's like
it may not
just
be one of those things you have
yourself-
conscious control of, but I guess that's the whole point of like meditation and stuff, is
Yeah,
to become
exactly.
conscious of these subconscious
You basically
things.
put yourself like this idea of sitting on a bench and watching things walk by and being able to have that perfect calm and like no, you know, discrimination or prejudice as to what you're going to see.
Yeah.
And you just allow it to fill you up. That's not something that every person is gonna like. It takes time, just like meditation takes time, you know.
Yeah.
Learning to like really calm yourself and put yourself into a momentary thing, knowing that it's momentary, and just being able to fully focus on what you're doing in that moment.
Yeah.
It takes practice, just like anything else. But I wouldn't say it's, you know, unachievable. But that's interesting.
All right, so back to old K here. He says, that's very scary. Can you kill with those abilities? Answer, yes, but it's forbidden. This means not that it was not done in previous times. Have both sexes these abilities? Answer, yes. What about photos? How do you appear on photos? Answer, this is a silly question. I appear on photos as a reptile being because I can't have influence on the photo or on the camera itself, but only on the photographer's mind. If he or she would develop the film and show the photo to others, they would see me in my original shape. That's the reason why it's forbidden for our kind to be filmed or photographed, and we must avoid every camera on the surface. That is very difficult, and we were filmed sometimes in the past without our knowledge, especially from certain of your governments and secret agencies. So maybe the David Icke reptilian videos are real.
David Icke's back in.
What other commands can your kind induce into our mind? Something like serve us or obey? Lacerta. This is again a strange question. We are not your enemy. Most of us not. So why should we do this? To answer your question, it depends on the strength of the human mind and on the strength of the sending reptilian. There is no serve us or serve me switch in your mind. So such a command is much more difficult to induce. If the human mind and consciousness is weak and the reptilian inducer is experienced in these things and was some hours in the sun before he or she tried to do it, then it could probably work for a certain time. There are secret teachings about such things, but I've never learned anything about it. I use my primary abilities for mimicry and for communication with my own kind, and sometimes for other private things, but I've never used it to harm humans or their mind. I would appreciate it if we can end with this topic here. The last question. You said earlier that you can hide your UFOs. Do you use the same abilities to do this? Answer, yes, but on a technical base. There is a powerful device inside each craft which is able to send an artificial signal to your minds to convince you that you see either nothing but only the sky, or that you see a normal aircraft like planes instead of our ships. This isn't used very often because we avoid human public when we move in the atmosphere. If you are able to see our UFOs, it means that the device is either defect or deactivated for some reason. The camouflage effect didn't work on photos. To answer this possible question of you already in advance, but why should someone make a photo of the sky when he cannot see anything unusual there? By the way, most of the surface near entry points to our tunnels are also hidden with such device, and your kind will generally see only normal cave walls instead of the door. That's one reason why I've said that I doubt you'll be able to find such a secret door to our world, but it have happened a few times in the past.
Oh, they entered that round room and got freaking mind wiped.
So she's telling us we need to spend some time meditating and getting control of our mind so that we can defeat their mind control tech. Yeah. And then we can go caving and find the door.
Well, it seems like,
we'll be screwed.
With the way she's explaining it, that them and these other alien races are using this switch that's, for whatever reason, left in our minds or our consciousness, and they're able to utilize that. But there aren't these other switches like command, obey us and obey me. Those type of things are not like built in. So it all depends on our understanding of ourselves and like what we're willing to like allow to happen is like the idea here that I'm getting from it. It's like, yes, you do have we have the ability to hide ourselves, but we don't have the ability to control your mind. So you actually can create your own fate in that case. But
except
if
for
you
this
are in a weakened state,
switch that we have,
but if you're in a weakened mental state as a whole,
then
and you are more
extra
susceptible,
manipulable, right?
Especially if there's an exexperienced, person at the helm of this thing or whatever, right? Maybe that's their entire job. They live their whole life to just they live in a some sort of like mental array, and they're generating this massive lie.
Yeah, it's interesting. Ah, man. All right, question. Back to your and our own history. You've mentioned the race Elohim, who have created our human race. From where did they come and how did they look like? What had exactly happened when they arrived? Are they our God? In quotes. Answer: the Elohim came from this universe, from the solar system you call Aldebaran in your maps. We were just outside during the last break, and Drew's like, that's Aldebaran.
Yep, found it.
They were a very tall humanoid species with usually blonde hairs and very white skin. They avoided the sunlight because it hurt their skin and their eyes. This was absolutely unbelievable for a sun-loving species like us. This makes them sound like freaking vampires.
Yeah.
But it's clearly like describing the
tall whites,
the Nordics.
The tall white vampires.
Yeah.
From Norway.
Mm-hmm. Erling Haaland, I know who you are. They seemed to be intelligent and peaceful at the beginning, and we started a more or less friendly communication with them. But later, they showed their real intentions and plans. They wanted to evolve the apes to a new breed, and we were a disturbing factor for them on their way to their new zoo planet. At first, they caught around 10,000 or maybe even 20,000 of your simian ancestors, and they left the planet for some 100 years. When they returned, they brought your now more human ancestors back. Then they left Earth again for some thousands of years, and the primitive pre-humans lived together with us without major problems. They were just afraid of our aircraft and technology. The Elohim had taught their mind and enhanced their brain and their body structure, and they were now able to use tools and fire. The Elohim returned within 23,000 years 7 times and accelerated the evolution speed of certain of your kind. You must understand that you are not the first human civilization on the planet. The first advanced humans who lived at the same time with less developed pre-humans, because the Elohim had experimented with the different speeds and stages of evolution. With technology and speech existed around 700,000 years ago on this planet. Your scientists have not understand this because they found only the bones of the pre-humans and some primitive cave drawings showing advanced humans and flying devices. This genetically advanced human breed lived together with us, but they avoided contact with my kind because the Elohim teachers had warned them with misleading purpose that we are evil beings and that we lied to them. Sounds very biblical there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no kidding.
Well, after some centuries, the aliens decided to extinct their first creation, and they accelerated the evolution of a second and better test series, and so on and so on. The truth is that your modern human civilization is not the first on this planet Earth, but already the 7th. The buildings of the first breeds are lost, but the 5th civilization was the one which built the large triangular constructions you call the Egyptian pyramids. Today, around 75,000 years ago. Your Egyptians just found that large ancient pyramids in the sand and tried, not very successful, to build similar constructions. And the 6th civilization was the one which built the cities which ruins you can find today beneath the sea in the so-called Bimini area around 16,000 years ago. The last creation of the 7th breed, your series, was done just 8,500 years ago. And this is the only creation you can remember and to which your religious writings refer. You rely on archaeological and paleontological artifacts which show you a wrong and short past. But how should you know anything about 6 civilizations before? And if you find evidence for their existence, you deny and misinterpret the facts. This is partly a programming of your mind and partly pure ignorance. I will tell you in the following only about your creations because the 6 previous mankinds are lost and therefore they should not concern you. There was a long war between us and the Elohim, and also between certain groups of the Elohim themselves, because many of them were the opinion that the again and again creation of human species on this planet makes no real sense. The last battles in this war were fought around 5,000 years ago in orbit and surface. The aliens used powerful sonic weapons to destroy our underground cities. But on the other hand, we were able to destroy many of their surface installations and bases in space. The humans of your series were very frightened when they observed our battles, and they wrote down in the form of religious myths. Their mind was not able to understand what was really going on. The Elohim, who appeared as gods for the 6th and 7th breed, told them that it is a war between good and evil, and that there are good, and that they are good and we are the evil race. This depends certainly on the point of view. It was our planet before they arrived, and before they started their evolution project with your kind. In my opinion, it was our right to fight for our planet. It was exactly 4,943 years ago, according to your timescale, that the Elohim left the planet again for unknown reasons. This is a very important date for us because many of our historians called it a victory. Facts is that we don't know what had really happened. The Elohim were gone from one day to another. They vanished without a trace together with their ships, and we found most of their surface installations destroyed by them. The humans were on their own, and your civilization developed. Many of us were in contact with certain more southern tribes of your species in the coming centuries, and we were able to convince some of them that we are not the evil the aliens wanted them to believe. During the time from 4,900 years ago to today, many other alien species arrived on the planet. Some of them used the old teaching and programming of your mind and played again God for you, but the Elohim themselves never came back. They had left the planet for a duration of some thousands of years also earlier, so we expect their return one day in the future to end their project, or maybe extinct also the 7th breed. But we don't really know what have happened to them to answer this question of you in advance. Your current civilization doesn't know anything about your real origin, about your real past, and about your real world and universe. And you know very little about us and our past. And you know nothing about the things to come in the near future. As long as you will not understand and believe my words, I tell you the truth because we are not your enemy. As long there is danger for your species, your enemies are already here and you have not understood. Open your eyes or you will be in big trouble soon. If you haven't believed anything of the things I've told you before, then you should really believe and remember this. I mean, let's just say, okay, that this is true.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And let's just say that this whole UFO legacy program is interacting with these beings. I mean, that starts to sort of fit the mold of things like people saying, like, you probably don't actually want to know the whole truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is, we were just some science experiment. We have barely been around here. It's not even our planet. And in fact, our creators may come back and kill us. That's
and that there might be a race of humanoid intelligent beings that are basically kind of looking out for us, but like not really. Like they're just kind of they're doing their own thing. Right. But they also have they have the ability, they have technology to have these UFOs and stuff, right? And they have the motive to stop us from harming ourselves, like all of these sightings around nuclear facilities.
Right.
Like, they're like, nah, like, we're going to stop you guys from doing this shit because this is stupid. If you guys blow up the planet, we're just as affected as you are.
Right.
So we're going to reuse our technology to keep you guys from destroying the world, but otherwise we're not going to interfere.
I mean, think about it though. Like, it would interact pretty weirdly with our current religions, right? With how much of the population of Earth is under Abrahamic religions, and who essentially have been told their entire childhood, like their entire worldview is based around the idea that the snake was the evil one in the garden.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. All it was the one who brought us the knowledge.
But so like there's a lot of like, I could see a lot of like fundamentalism around not allowing the truth of that, if it were true, right? To gain traction. Like, if the facts of the matter came out, they would probably spin it as, okay, sure, they exist, but they're evil, right?
Right.
Anyway,
we're already set up for that.
We're getting close to the end here, so let's finish this bit. Question: why do you think I don't believe you? Answer: I have a certain feeling that you don't believe me, despite the fact that I'm sitting here in front of you. Everything I've told you in the last 2 hours is the absolute truth, not truth about our world. How many alien species are active on Earth at the moment? Excuse me. As far as we know, 14 species, 11 from this universe, 2 from another bubble, and one very advanced from a very different plane. Don't ask me for names because nearly all are not pronounceable for you. 8 of them are not pronounceable even for us. Most of the species, especially the more advanced, are just studying you as animals, and they are not very dangerous for you and for us. And we work together with some of them. But 3 species are hostile, including the one which was in contact with some of your governments and exchanged their technology for copper and other important things which had betrayed your kind. There was and is also a Cold War between 2 of these hostile races during the last 73 years, and the 3rd species seemed to be the winner in this useless struggle. We expect a more hot war between them and you in the near future, I would say in the next 10 or 20 years, and we are worried about that development. And the last time, there were some rumors about a new 15th species which had arrived on Earth just 3 or 4 years ago, but we don't know anything about their intentions, and we are not in contact with them till now. Maybe the rumors are wrong. That's all fascinating stuff. What do the hostile alien races want? Answer: various raw materials, including copper for their technology, your water, or better, the hydrogen in your water, which is a source of energy in the advanced fusion processes, and certain chemical elements in your air. Furthermore, 2 of the species are also interested in your body, in your human tissue and blood, because their own genetic structure is defect through bad evolution and radiation, as far as we know. And they need intact strings from your kind and from animals to repair their own genetic again and again, because they are not really able to repair the defects completely because their DNA and your DNA is not fully compatible. My own species is absolutely incompatible with them, so they are not very interested in us. And they try to make more compatible crossbreeds between you and them by use of artificial fertilization and artificial wombs. We suppose that the coming war between the 3 races, or between you and one or all of them, will be fought over raw materials, hydrogen, air, and DNA.
Okay.
Is this the reason for the abductions? Partly, especially when aliens took egg and sperm samples from you. Sometimes the abductors belong to another more advanced race, and they just want to study your body and your mind, which is more interesting for some of them than your solid body, as you would study a primitive animal. As I have said, 3 alien species are hostile, and this means they do not care for your fate or for your life, and people who were abducted by them came very rarely back alive. If someone is able to report about an abduction, it means, in my opinion, that he or she has not met one of the aggressive species, or that he or she is a very, very lucky human to be alive. Advanced and friendly races also took sometimes egg and sperm samples, but for other reasons. You said there are only 14 species active on Earth, but why describe people who saw alien beings, so many different and bizarre types of them? I think I've already answered to this question. As I have said, most of the alien races have much more advanced mind abilities than you or even me. There is just one alien race completely without such abilities. They are able to appear in your mind and memory as whatever they want, and this induced image has nothing to do with their real opinion or real appearance. You remember them as normal humans, or gray dwarfs, or even extremely bizarre animals because they want you to remember that, or sometimes they want you to completely forget anything about a meeting with them. Another example, you can, for example, remember that you were just in a normal of your human hospitals and that some doctors were examining you, and you think not further about what have happened to you, maybe till you discover that there is no hospital in the street you were supposed it, but in fact you were examined by them in one of their laboratories. You can't rely on your mind in this case. They appear in different shapes to you to confuse you and to make so-called abduction witnesses who are able to remember the events, or who believe they are able to remember, ridiculous in the public. And as far as we know, they are successful. Believe me, there are only 14 alien species on this planet, and only 8 of them abduct humans at the moment, again, as far as we know. In addition, not every one of your abductees is one, and some of the aliens in their reports are really just imagination or lies. Of course. Mm-hmm. Almost there. How can we protect us against this influence on our mind? Answer, I don't know. I doubt you can, because your mind is like an open book to read and write for nearly every species I know. This is partly the guilty of the Elohim themselves, because they had constructed, or better, misconstructed, partly intentionally, your mind and your consciousness without real protection mechanisms. If you are aware that someone tries to manipulate your mind, you can only concentrate on that suspicion and try to analyze every one of your thoughts or memories. Very important, don't close your eyes. This would lead to a different form of brainwaves, which are more easy to access. And don't sit or lay down to rest. If you stay awake during the first minutes, you can maybe try to filter the other thoughts and waves in your brain, and the inducer will give up after some minutes if he or she is not successful, because it will start to hurt his or her own brain. This is very difficult and certainly painful, and it can harm you. So better don't try to resist, but it would be only possibility you have. However, you can try this only with more weaker species, but not with the strong. What do you mean with one species comes from a very different plane? Yeah, I was wondering that too. That Before I can explain that correctly to you, you must be able to understand the universe, and this would mean maybe a useless teaching of your mind, including the remove of some barriers of many weeks. And with teaching, I mean not only teaching by words. I have said this with your word plane or level, because you have, again, no better words in your vocabulary, and dimension would be able in your vocabulary. And dimension would be, in this case, absolutely wrong. It's rather wrong even for another bubble, because a dimension can't exist without planes. If you would be a species living in another or over the plane, And if you would be furthermore able to enter planes without technology so that your body is not made of that kind of matter, then you would be the mightiest being you can imagine. This very advanced race I've mentioned have developed outside of here, and they've evolved, in fact, over billions of years. They would be able to destroy all of you and us and everything with just a single thought. We were in contact with them only 3 times in our whole history because their interest in your planet is different from that of all other races. They are definitely no danger for you or us. So they're like freaking Galactus.
Yeah, they're just like...
They're like dark matter beings who
moving through
are
the universe.
Yeah.
In between bubbles, the bubble universes.
Yeah.
Like they keep referencing.
They blow the bubbles of the bubble universes.
Yeah, and bounce them off each other and get them closer and further apart. And
they're still not God.
Yeah, they're the movement in the heavens.
Question: what will happen when the war begins? This is difficult to answer. It depends on the enemy race and on their tactic. War is not always that primitive thing you humans mean with the word war. Can be fought on various levels. One possibility is they have the destruction of your social system by influence on political leaders. Another is the use of advanced weapon systems, which can cause earthquakes or volcanic eruptions or other disasters, including severe weather disasters, which may seem natural to you. The special fields from copper fusion I've mentioned earlier are able to have an influence on your global weather. I think they will not attack the planet directly before the human civilization is weak, because you have possibilities to destroy their craft, but not many. Let me say that we are not absolutely sure if there will be such a hot war already in the next years. I don't want to talk further about this. This is the end of the interview. Do you want to say a last sentence or message? Open your eyes and see. Don't believe only your wrong history or your scientists or politicians. Some of them know the truth about various things, but they don't inform the public to avoid confusion and panic. I think your species is not as bad as some of my kind thinks, and it would be a pity to observe your end. That's everything I can say. Go through your world with open eyes and you will see. Or maybe not. Your kind is ignorant. Do you think anyone will believe that this interview is the truth? Answer, no, but it is an interesting experiment for my social studies. We will meet again in some months, and you will tell me then what have happened after the publication of my message. Maybe there is hope for your kind.
Interesting, man. So fascinating.
Yeah.
Just the playing with that idea, letting yourself believe it, and what that could mean, and what the connections are between these other parts and pieces. And we should end with that clip of Alan Watts.
Oh, okay, cool. I literally just closed my browser. Let me grab it. Give me some.
Down at the bottom, maybe. It's one of these Instagram ones. Yeah, go to the messages. It's in there too.
Oh, I took out of here.
Okay.
Do.
There it is.
All right, here we go.
Going round and round and round and round in the alternations of life. Now, the question is, are these two fishes involved in a fight? Is the white one eating up the black one, and the black one trying to eat up the white one? If that is the situation, then of course, life is fundamentally nothing but a grim contest. If this one up here is the good fellow, and this one is the bad fellow, if this is order and this is chaos, then a fight goes on between them. And that's largely the way in which our technology has interpreted man's situation as against nature. This is man, the white, the good fellow. This is nature, the dark, the bad fellow. And the white one has got to eat him up. But what happens if the white fish succeeds in eating up the dark fish? The white fish disappears as well as the dark one. because the white one is only there in relation to the dark. So then, if these two fishes, as it were, wake up, if this one wakes up and this one wakes up, which is called awakening in Buddhism, they realize they're one. In other words, they go together. They're inseparable from each other. And this realization is that experience, which is called in Zen, Satori, or in Buddhism, Bodhi, awakening. This sudden dawning on our consciousness that life is not really a contest to make yes triumph over no, to make the positive triumph over the negative. The two sides go together. And then one sees, in this strange way, that underlying all that is negative in the world, all that is in a way painful and evil, there is a kind of necessity to it. It goes with the good. It is necessary for the good. Disorder is necessary for the manifestation of order, just as you must have, say, a black background to show up a light figure. And then when one sees that, a profound transformation takes place in one's attitude to the world. That is going round and round.
Bro, you know what threw me off so much about that? He did not look old and wise. He looked like this young cut dude from the freaking 50s or 60s. And I was like, this is what? He seems too wise for his years there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting. Yeah, I've been really fascinated with the whole idea of the yin-yang ever since we started this podcast. I've been talking about all these things.
Yep. This whole duality
and since
of nature.
Our last, Alan Watts episode. It's fascinating stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So is the serpent the bad guy or not?
Or is the serpent the black background that shows you how light a light object could be,
I got one more light note to end this on. And this is just funny.
Okay.
Have you ever seen this?
No,
Trevor Moore, The Story of Our Times. My computer just became self-aware.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Apparently this dude passed, but this is like from a Comedy Central show he had. So hopefully
I think this guy is
down.
Okay.
But this is so stupid.
Okay.
Here we go. Dude, how perfect was that for this podcast?
So
it literally started off all just stupid, but then it went so deep.
So deep, so quick. So good. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us.
I have a feeling Trevor Moore would see the reptilians as reptilians.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's probably seen them now.
Right?
All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us. Episode 56. Like and subscribe on anywhere you're listening to your podcast right now. If you want to get the videos and any of the visuals along with it, go to YouTube or Rumble. Leave a comment like Greg does.
Heck yeah. Thanks,
you can
Greg.
email us
and happy
directly.
birthday, man.
Yeah, happy birthday, Greg.
Tell us what you did.
And if you want to email us directly, kind of like our sister does, except we're not giving you our private phone numbers, you can email us at host@dualitycheck.net or visit our website. We got a website. It's got everything on there, all the links, all of the show notes, everything you want is going to be up there, just like any of the other platforms. So, yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next week.
Keep your minds open and try and spot some reptilians this week, y'all. See ya.
Yeah. Try to embrace the duality of our nature while you're doing it.
Heck yeah. And spill some Coke on your keyboard. Maybe it'll come to life.
Happens.
Bye.
All right, y'all. Peace.